the silence that stopped the storm. There are moments in sports that don't need a replay to become legendary. Just a look, a serve, and the right moment of silence. One night at a major tournament, where thousands of spectators held their breath for every shot, two individuals stepped onto the court representing two opposite worlds. Aryna Sabalenka, an emotional tempest who had never been truly subdued, and Eala, an iceberg of composure, so serene it forced the very storm to pause. Initially, it was just a match like any other. But then, no one knows exactly from which point, everything slipped beyond the boundaries of sport. A serve, a shout, a piercing gaze, and then the breathless silence. Some called it the moment of explosion. Others said it was the battle between ego and character. Sabalenka, who had often made opponents tremble with her raw energy, suddenly lost control. And Eala, the young player from the Philippines, stood there, eyes unblinking, hands steady, as if her very composure was the fuel that intensified the rage. The court was no longer a place for scoring. It was a measure of endurance, self-respect, and will. Cameras tracked every step. Microphones captured every dialogue. And the online world, as usual, erupted. Some praised Eala as the new symbol of mental strength. Others sympathized with Sabalenka as a warrior consumed by emotion. But amidst millions of opinions, one thing was undeniable. This was not just a match. This was a story, a lesson, a turning point. And the biggest question remains: who truly won in that moment? The one who screamed or the one who stayed silent? Join Pro Tennis 360 as we decode every frame, every gaze, and every unspoken word behind this stunning courtside explosion that rocked the tennis world. If you believe tennis is not just about scores, but about psychology and the human element, hit subscribe so you don't miss the stories behind the arena lights. When coolness meets fire. In the world of elite tennis, there is no shortage of peak battles involving skill or fitness. But there are some matches where what makes them unforgettable is not the shot, but the gaze. One match, two personalities, and a collision of spirits that made the whole world stop. Aryna Sabalenka, the fiery storm of the tennis world, known for her raw power and explosive emotions. For her, every serve is a declaration, every step a warning. She doesn't come to play pretty, she comes to dominate. On the other side of the net, Eala, a young woman from the Philippines, barely in her 20s, but with the calm eyes of someone who has weathered many storms. In her hands is not just a racket, but the hope and expectation of a nation, a generation. Not the screaming warrior type, Alex is the kind of opponent who makes you afraid precisely because of her silence. Even before the ball was struck, there were rumors that they didn't like each other, that their initial handshake lasted exactly 1 second. No one confirmed it. But once they stepped onto the court, everything was clear. This was not a match. This was a confrontation of natures. From the very first points, the tide leaned toward Alex. She served as if every shot was pre-programmed in her mind. Sabalenka lost her first service game, and the audience sensed something cracking. She snarled, hit the ball harder. Her eyes never left her opponent. And then, in a seemingly unintentional moment, their shoulders bumped during the end-of-set changeover. Alex said nothing. She kept walking, eyes unblinking. Sabalenka stopped, turned around, a gaze that seemed to want to incinerate the silence. From that moment, everything ceased to be just sport. It was pride, ego, and the personal history of two people colliding, not with a forehand, but with emotions no one taught them how to control. And in that psychological warfare, the most terrifying thing was not the scream, but the silence. A silence that made the entire stadium hold its breath. When the undercurrent is unleashed, as the match entered its true rhythm, people no longer just heard the sound of the ball on the hard court, but felt the quickened breathing, the deep stares, and the increasingly heavy footsteps. Aryna Sabalenka and Eala had crossed the threshold of normal competition and entered the forbidden zone of psychology. Sabalenka, initially the dominant force, was ready. But in that moment, Eala was not a simple opponent. She stepped onto the court with one mindset, unafraid, unshrinking, focused only on each shot. A break point, a strong serve, and Sabalenka hesitated slightly. A good return from Eala, an extended rally, and Sabalenka frowned. Two generations, one seeking to affirm who is number one, the other proclaiming, "I am coming." And in that moment when their shoulders accidentally touched during the changeover, the noise of the stadium seemed to vanish. Sabalenka turned back, her eyes cold. Eala remained silent, but that silence was a challenge greater than any scream. In the stands, people muttered, "It's starting." On the court, the players were no longer just hitting the ball. They were confronting each other. When Sabalenka lost her serve, and then Eala broke her again, and then Sabalenka smashed her racket after a simple unforced error, people understood. This match had gone too far to be just a tennis match. Even when an ace landed wide, sending the crowd into an uproar, Sabalenka raised her hand in protest. The audience held its breath. Eala did not laugh, said nothing. She simply stared straight ahead. The psychological balance had shifted. When the player in the leading position loses control of her emotions, that is when the opponent silently steps up, boldly, and block two ends with a defining image. Sabalenka gritting her teeth, Eala still standing at the service line, her eyes filled with determination. The low point and the rebellion, when the whole stadium trembled. The rhythm of the match shifted from a soft opening to a relentless press. Sabalenka looked at her watch, lightly kicked the court mat, and strode to the center court faster. Eala took a breath, placed the ball, served. Ace. The crowd erupted again. Sabalenka instantly reacted, stepping to the net, her voice loud and clear. That was out. But the umpire shook his head. Eala simply replied, "Play the ball, not the player." The words were small, but resonated like a bomb. Following that, Sabalenka missed her next serve, threw her racket, all within 2 seconds. But the effect lasted the whole match. The camera panned to the audience, to her shoulder, to Eala's gaze. Eala's stability became the greatest threat to Sabalenka, because one cannot react to silence. While Sabalenka cursed the ball, Eala simply rested her hand on her knee, walking to her new position. When Sabalenka slightly bumped her opponent after a racket toss, the audience cried out. Security personnel moved closer. But Eala did not back down. She continued. The feeling of games being played spread across the court. Eala won a crucial game, and then Sabalenka lost her composure with a missed forehand. The entire court felt like it was witnessing a psychological explosion, one struggling with unchecked emotions, the other silently imposing discipline. The greater meaning, two egos, two styles of play, and a match that was no longer about who played better, but about who stood firmer. After the explosion, an impact bigger than a match. When the final whistle blew, no one cheered loudly. The stadium was engulfed in the clicks of cameras, sighs, and the gaze of spectators through their screens. Sabalenka walked away quietly, shoulders slumped. Eala raised her hand in acknowledgement, but her eyes were fixed on the Philippine stand. The camera cut back to the moment their shoulders touched earlier. They had played this match, but both were performing a larger psychological drama. On social media, hashtags #Team Sabalenka and #Team Eala exploded. Comments divided into two fronts. Sabalenka lost control. Eala is the new role model. Analysts wrote, "We didn't just witness a win. We witnessed how one athlete shaped an image, and another athlete had her image exploit her weakness." Sabalenka was criticized for the racket throw. Eala was hailed for her silence. But in the press room, Eala said, "I am here to play tennis. What happens outside the serve, I leave it to others to decide." Sabalenka, meanwhile, stated, "I play with emotion. I am human. I did not cross the line." Listeners questioned, where exactly is the line? And then brands, media, sponsors hesitated, observed, adjusted. The match did not end when the ball dropped. It lingered in the minds of viewers, in social media data, in brand scores. Block 4 concludes with the image of their silent post-match handshake, a sign of a misunderstanding resolved, or a new generation preparing to rise. The Crisis Center. Consequences not just on the court. Following the courtside explosion between Aryna Sabalenka and Alexandra Eala, The aftershock did not remain within the confines of the match. On the contrary, this was the moment the crisis truly began to spread, from the locker room to the media stage, from social media to the political backstage of the global tennis scene. What seemed like a mere momentary emotional clash turned into a tsunami sweeping across all fronts. Quick-cut videos rapidly went viral across social media. TikTok, X, YouTube Shorts, all revolving around Sabalenka's icy glare, Eala's composed retort, and the moment the two stood so close a collision seemed imminent. Comments erupted. The hashtag Sabalenka vs. Eala soared to global trending topics within hours. But the crisis wasn't just in public comment. After the match, Sabalenka's management team worked non-stop to control the damage. A major sports brand was reported to have paused its promotional campaign with her, while tournament organizers faced pressure from both sides to handle the situation fairly. And Eala? Despite maintaining silence, her image was elevated to that of an icon, the one who held firm amidst the storm, representing the new composure of the young athlete generation. The WTA issued a brief statement. We emphasize that passion is a part of sport, but respect for the opponent is always core. Without naming names, everyone knew what they were referring to. The media called it the match that changed Sabalenka's image, while analysts commented, Eala didn't just win on the scoreboard. She won on attitude. However, beneath the turbulent waves lay a bigger question. Did this incident draw a fragile line between personality and loss of control, between passion and disrespect? One thing is certain. From that moment on, every shot by Sabalenka, every step by Eala, was watched not just with professional eyes, but with the full expectant and skeptical gaze of the world. And in the heart of this crisis, both were forced to confront the truth. Athletes don't just compete on the court, they also compete against prejudice, pressure, and their own selves. Media and image. When silence is also power. When the match ended and the spectators gradually left the arena, the story was only just beginning. Because now, global media had officially entered the game. A barrage of headlines appeared in major newspapers. Sabalenka loses control, Eala holds firm against unprecedented pressure. The clash that transcended sport. On social media, the image of Eala calmly walking back to her seat with a composed gaze was edited into emotionally charged videos. One video titled, "When Calm is Louder Than Chaos," garnered over 5 million views in just 12 hours. Meanwhile, Sabalenka, once known as the queen of power and emotion, was now placed under the microscope of public scrutiny. Every action, every gesture she made after the incident was meticulously analyzed. In a subsequent match, just a frown, a slight racket toss by Sabalenka became the focus of discussion. She was no longer the fiery warrior, but the storm waiting to erupt, an image difficult to wash away, whether it was the full truth or not. And what about Eala? Her silence turned out to be the most terrifying media weapon. No posts, no interviews beyond her single statement, "I am here to play tennis." Everything beyond the line, "I leave it to others to perceive." One sentence, but like an arrow piercing the fog of emotion, it elevated Eala from young player to symbol of composure. The world took sides. One defended Sabalenka's strong personality. The other praised Eala's quiet resilience. But wherever they stood, all agreed on one thing. The match was no longer about technique, but about attitude, image, and character. When the wave of public opinion began to subside, what remained was not the score, but a cold truth. In the digital age, you don't just compete physically. You also compete with how you are narrated. And in this media battle, perhaps the one who did not speak was the winner. When the crack becomes memory, learning to accept and move on. Time passed, and like every other sports scandal, public debate gradually settled. But for Aryna Sabalenka and Alexandra Eala, that moment of tension was not just a bad day. It became a point of no return. For Sabalenka, everything changed. Not just how the audience saw her, but how she saw herself. According to a source from her backstage team, after that match, she refused to speak, staying in the locker room for nearly an hour, not saying a word. An organizer described the scene. She was no longer a burning fire, but a lamp that had just been extinguished by its own wind. In contrast, Eala continued her career silently as usual. But the world's gaze upon her was different. International media began calling her the new symbol of mental resilience for the young generation. Though she hadn't won a Grand Slam, she possessed something many other stars lacked: composure in the midst of a storm. Then destiny, or perhaps the invisible orchestration of sport, brought them together again, not in an official match, but at a joint charity event organized by the ADP/WTA. The whole room fell silent as the two entered the same frame. No one knew what would happen. But then Sabalenka walked over. No arrogance, no avoidance. She extended her hand, speaking softly. "That day we both lost. But I hope next time we are just tennis players." Eala nodded, gently taking her hand. "That is what I always hoped for." No camera fully recorded that moment. No one shouted. But perhaps, in that silence, both had won. Not on the scoreboard, but in the battle to overcome themselves. From that moment, their courtside explosion was no longer scandal. It became a piece of memory, not to be forgotten, but to be learned from. Because sport is not just about winning, but about how you fail and get back up. Resurgence and success. Learning to take your story to the world. And so things have settled. But one thing is clearer than ever. This event was not just a clash between two players, but an unforgettable milestone in the careers of both Aryna Sabalenka and Alexandra Eala. For Sabalenka, the process of learning emotional control became a long and arduous journey. From a fiery and powerful player, Sabalenka had to confront her own ego and personal strength. She was known for her powerful shots and fierce celebrations, but after the incident in Guangzhou, everything changed. In the following months, Sabalenka began to realize one important truth. True strength doesn't come from outward show, but from the ability to control oneself. The Belarusian player started incorporating sports psychology training, not just for physical conditioning, but to maintain a strong presence in high-pressure situations. She also became more open about her emotions, no longer hesitant or ashamed to speak about psychological issues. An interview with Sabalenka after the event made the public contemplate. She shared, "True strength doesn't come from the hardest hit or the greatest win. Sometimes it comes from the ability to stay silent when the world demands you to scream." On Alex Eala's side, the record-breaking aftermath of the match not only helped her stand out in the sports world, but also established her as a role model for composure. At just 20 years old, Eala had to deal with relentless pressure from her home fans, sponsors, and herself. But it was precisely her calmness and composure after the incident that helped her career advance surprisingly. She became a representative for the young generation in tennis, not only through her talent, but also through how she overcame challenges. Eala did not shy away from a story. She simply stated one simple yet powerful sentence: "For me, tennis is about focusing on the game. What happens off the court, I leave for others to decide." Eala's maturity was clearly evident in subsequent media events and interviews. She became an icon of composure and growth, and gradually built a sustainable image in the eyes of the public and the media. Many analysts and commentators even began comparing her to big names in tennis for her stability and deep insight into the sport. From a turbulent match to a story of legacy. After everything, Aryna Sabalenka and Alex Eala are no longer just two rivals on the court. They have become models of progress and learning. Both, despite their different starting points, prove that sport is not just about winning, but about the journey each person must take to truly understand themselves. With Sabalenka, her story after the incident changed the perception fans and experts had of her. She is no longer just a woman with powerful shots, but also an inner warrior. Someone who knows how to confront emotions and understand that sometimes silence itself can be an expression of true strength. This was most clearly demonstrated in a late-season interview, when Sabalenka spoke about her journey of self-awareness. "I learned that in sports, we don't always have to fight the opponent. Sometimes, the biggest fight is the one against ourselves." That is the profound lesson Sabalenka shared with the world. As for Alex Eala, her story is not just one of on-court success. Eala has become the symbol of a new generation, tennis players with a fresh mindset, not only making fans proud, but also contributing to changing the image of tennis in Southeast Asia. She is the proof that talent and sportsmanship can change the trajectory of a sport. She is a combination of skill, composure, and human quality, elements that have helped her leave a strong impression on the hearts of fans. After the event, both players were more than just tennis players. They became icons of growth and learning in sports, a reminder of the importance of mental health in a high-pressure world. The story between Sabalenka and Eala was not merely a match. It became an integral part of tennis history, where emotion, power, and silence created a rich tapestry of sport and humanity in the modern world. Beyond the explosion, the lessons of control, honor, and the true human. The match between Aryna Sabalenka and Alexandra Eala seemed like just a fiery moment on the court. But in reality, it was a profound snapshot of modern sports, where emotion, honor, and pressure collide at the speed of light. Every gaze, every serve, every step, all were not just for scoring points, but for regaining control against a world watching every breath. In the dazzling lights and slow-motion cameras, the world saw not just a competition, but two personalities in opposition. One exploding with emotion, one calm like a lake in a storm. Sabalenka, grappling with rage and the pressure of being misunderstood. Eala, with the silence that compelled the whole world to listen. This story has no hero or villain, only humans. True humans, with their limitations, their moments of instability, and their choices. Between reaction and control, between ego and self-worth. It was this very collision that created a memorable moment, not because of the chaos, but because it forced us to reconsider what truly makes a champion. And if you come to sports not just to see who wins, but to understand who went through what to get there, then stay with us. Because what you have just watched is only the tip of the iceberg. Pro Tennis 360 doesn't just put you at the center of the match. We take you further, into the emotional backstage, into the media storm, into the moments others don't see. Because we believe that sport is not just results, it is a human story. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel today to not miss any story that touches upon the truth behind the court. Because sometimes the most memorable thing is not on the scoreboard, but in how an athlete held their ground in the emotional tempest.